Hello and welcome. I'm Bernadette Logue, Transformation Life Coach and leader of the Daily Positive community. Today I'm joined by Dr. Damon Silas. We're going to be talking about one of my favorite techniques of all time, emotional freedom techniques, also commonly called tapping. We're going to be talking about the power of tapping, and we're going to do some guided tapping. And this is going to be really good for people who kind of know tapping is really helpful, but get stuck and just don't do it, okay? Dr. Damon Silas is a clinical psychologist. He's the published author of 2 books, From Morning to Night, Overcoming Loss, and What's Your Action Plan? 6 powerful ways to get unstuck in your life right now. He is a speaker and a teacher. If you've tuned into the Tapping World Summit over the many years it's been run by the Tapping Solution team, you've probably seen Damon or heard Damon on that summit. In his 20 years in the field of psychology, he has worked with a wide range of populations and issues, including but not limited to anxiety, grief, loss, and trauma. He is currently a military and family life counsellor, helping service members and their children adjust to and thrive within military life. He is also, along with Alison Stoner, the co-developer and co-facilitator of Movement Genius, the holistic fitness program that reconnects mind, body, being through creativity. He is also one of the co-founders of Black Tappers United, a collective of Black EFT tapping practitioners whose goal is to bring tapping to the Black community in a safe, affordable and effective way. With that said, let's dive in and connect with Dr. Damon, hear his wisdom, and let's do some guided tapping with him. Welcome, Damon. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Bernadette. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
Awesome. And I'm in Spain and you're in Germany, right? So we're in the same time zone.
Yes.
Love it. So whereabouts, you're from the States before you're in Germany. Whereabouts in the States are you?
Yeah, I lived in North Carolina in the Charlotte area for about 5 years prior to coming here. So I've been here for just under a year now.
Awesome. And can you tell us a little bit about what brought you to the specialty work in the area of psychology, specifically for things like grief, loss, PTSD and trauma? Because I know that it's a really specific area, right? And so some clinical psych specialize in that, and obviously you're amazing with tapping as well, but I just really love to know a bit more about how you came to that.
Sure. So I'll kind of focus on the two. So I'll look at grief and loss and then PTSD, because they're a little bit separate when it comes to how I came into those 2 areas of specialty. So with grief and loss, it was more so because I went through my own grief and loss. And as I tried to navigate that space of working through loss, I realized that going through my own therapy was very helpful. I lost my sister when I was 17. She was 20 at the time. And, at that time, she was my best friend. And so I had gone away to college right after it happened. So it happened in December of 92. And then by August of the following year, I was off to college. And I ended up finding the counseling center, and there I started receiving my own therapy. And I went to individual and group therapy to just process this loss, to process this grief that I was going through that I didn't even know. I didn't have a word for it at that time, because here I was 18 at that time, but just I had never experienced something like that. So going through that really was helpful. And so when it was time to choose my major, because it took me a while, I chose psychology simply because I know that it was so helpful for me in my healing process. And I wanted to be able to help others, not only through their own grief and loss, similar to what myself and my family had gone through, but also if I could prevent anybody else from going down the path of, she was actually murdered. And so primarily by one man. There were 2 men there. It was her and her roommate. But I wanted to prevent somebody going down that path that one man took in taking my sister's life. And so I started doing a lot of work with juveniles who had been in the system, but I knew that there was, along with a lot of grief and loss, that there was trauma there that they were dealing with.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's kind of the beginning of that journey. And then when it comes to even deepening my trauma work, I started eventually working with the military as I'm doing now, but in a little different capacity. And I was seeing a lot of people who had been deployed off to war many times. And as I was trying to do talk therapy with them, I realized it was painful for me to sit there, for them to sit there. So I just started doing a lot of work and research and what could be the best treatment or treatments for them at that time. But really, that was kind of my intro into specializing more in trauma work as well. So that's kind of the long of the short of the long.
Well, I just want to express my sympathies for your loss, because I know while it is some time ago, it is a loss that makes a huge impact on your heart and your life. And what a tribute to your sister's life that you now do, like profound healing work, helping other people directly out of that experience. Was it healing for you to help heal other people, aside from receiving your own therapy at college, to then work with other people? Has that been a healing process for you? Is that difficult? Because is it re-triggering in some ways, watching other people go through it?
Yeah, no, it is healing. I think because we heal in community and we heal in connection. And so it's constant. And as you may or may not know, Bernadette, with grief, with loss, it's a daily thing. It's a lifetime thing, right? So just when you think you've processed one thing, there's something else to process. Or just when you think you've kind of, I hate to even say gotten over it, because a lot of people say that. I'm like, you constantly are reminded of that person or are thinking about that person. So you never get over it. You just learn how to operate in life without that person physically here. But it has honestly been very healing as I work with other people to see them work through it. But I also made sure that I got not just the therapy that I received in undergrad, but I went through significant amount of therapy when I was in graduate school and thereafter. So it was 4 times a week, 1 hour at a time. So like I processed my stuff. So yes, yeah, I was like, I have nothing more to say. Yeah,
I am done. Yeah, and I think it's really it's a completely different scenario. I know everybody's loss is completely different. I was 13 when my sister died, and she was 25 of kidney failure and heart failure, relatively unexpectedly. And I did not process Zippo, nada, nothing. And like for years, I was an angry teenager, an angry teenager. Yeah. And I think it really wasn't until I think I just packed it down. Didn't know anything about tapping, didn't know anything about, like in New Zealand, we have a DIY culture, do it yourself, stuff that stuff down, get on with life. And then that stuff is simmering, boiling. And then it comes up to be dealt with, right? And so I think for anyone that's listening that's had grief and loss and thinks you just get on with it, like you just so deserve the space to sit with someone and to be heard, and it is very cathartic and very healing to like let that out in an environment which is safe and can be navigated, right, with someone.
Absolutely.
Which leads to a question I wanted to ask you, and that is, in your experience, when it comes to things like EFT, anyone listening, that's emotional freedom techniques, and the nickname often is tapping. When is it your recommendation that it's okay to self-guide tapping on trauma and depression and grief? And when is it like, don't touch that on your own, come and see someone who will guide you through that because it's too much? This concern of taking the lid off the can of worms and getting stuck in the middle of all the big feelings, and you don't know tapping well enough and you can't get yourself out of it, and it's re-traumatizing.
Right. No, that's such a good question, because I think so many people really do want to do it on their own. They're like, I know the tool, I know what I'm supposed to say. And I've even experienced it myself where I consistently reach out to friends who are EFT tappers, practitioners, when I know that I need it a little bit more than like just a daily thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it's just realizing whether it's low grade versus something that's a little bit more intense. And we intuitively know ourselves, and sometimes we don't even give ourselves enough credit for that, right? So, and when people came into the therapy room, I haven't been in one for about 8 months, but when they do, they usually say, "Well, you're the expert. You tell me." And I always say, "Well, you're the expert of you, right? You've been living with you for all these years. So I am an observer. And so I'm here to help guide you. But and we know when we are down and out, when we really need that extra help with trauma, we know when the trauma runs really deep, and it's okay to ask for that help. And I think, if you start to tap and you realize, wait a minute, I just tapped on and hit on something that, ooh, that really, touched on, a nerve for me, or something that I know is a lot deeper, then it's time to reach out. I would really caution people, especially with trauma,
Mm-hmm.
um, to use another practitioner, but really with anything, because again, it's about that relationship. So, for instance, and using myself as an example, even as a therapist, knowing the words to say when tapping, it's a different process when I'm saying it to myself versus I am having somebody repeat those words to me. Ooh, that's powerful.
Mm. Yeah.
There's power in that. So, and there's growth and there's progress and there's healing in all of that.
Mm. And from a clinical psych perspective, with all the tools in your toolkit, from an academic background and then clinical practice and all the things that you've done, tell me and the audience, with EFT, with tapping, what is it from your perspective that provides such power with that technique when it comes to these things like trauma and PTSD and very intense and deeper experiences?
Yeah, well, like I was saying, one of the reasons why I went on a hunt to find a different technique or a different tool to use for people who were experiencing trauma was because I could see it in their bodies. As they're talking, they would clench up. I could see, this defense come up. But the other thing that I noticed is that people would try to use kind of the front part of their brain, the frontal lobe, as their way to talk through this trauma.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew that wasn't going to get them out of it or help them heal through it, because that's not what got them there in the first place. It was their primitive brain that protected them. It was their primitive brain that experienced. It was their body that experienced the trauma or the grief or the loss. And so I knew that we had to get a little bit deeper than just talking about, things that were about processing kind of thoughts and feelings about it. And so as I started to do the research and doing the work more, I realized, wow, this is amazing, because now people are making these connections that not even I was able to make, or if I were able to make it in just talking, it wouldn't land the same way as somebody being able to own that connection. Right? It's different with me saying, do you think, your response could have something to do with this event in the past versus, oh my goodness, I'm thinking about that event in the past, and I think that's why those two things are connected. Yes, right? So it almost, in some ways, it takes the pressure off the clinician, because then the person is responsible for their own healing. Granted, again, we're the guide, so it's not like the person is the client, the patient is left alone. But it's more so now you get to own your healing. So that's what I love about it. And again, because it combines mind and body, it's a deeper level of healing. Because as Bessel van der Kolk has the book, The Body Keeps the Score, and he's absolutely correct. I mean, if anybody can claim that, it's him. All the years of research that he's done, and the body really does. And so it's so important for that work to incorporate both mind and body.
Yeah, beautiful. And I'm just thinking of some people that I've talked to in the past, and they're like, yeah, I know about the tapping, but I just I just don't do it. Or I know about the tapping, for whatever you might be tapping on in your life, whatever emotional situation, and they really love to have some guided process. So I know that you are connected in with the guys at the Tapping Solution, and they've got a great app, and I often send people to the app for your depression 5-day series, because I think having something that people can go and utilize is really powerful. So if people want to find out more about like guided audios to follow along with, including that series for depression with you, that app is great. So we can put some links into that for people that want to find out more. There will be people on this listening that understand tapping. And there'll be people that'll be like, what? So I want to give like the ABC intro to, like what is tapping, and maybe we could do a little bit of tapping just so people can get a little feel for what it's about.
Sure. So what I can do is just talk about it briefly, and then we can get into a little sample round.
Thank you. Perfect.
Sure. So as you said, EFT is emotional freedom techniques. There's an S on there because there's multiple techniques within the one technique of tapping. And it's called tapping because you're literally tapping on different acupressure points. So it combines Eastern medicine, with Western modern psychology. So what we do is, and really the basis is that our energy when we're anxious or when we're, in a state of depression, when we experience trauma, our energy can get stuck in a loop. And so by engaging in this tapping process, it actually helps to get that process unstuck. And it's a beautiful process in that by getting unstuck, you notice all sorts of things, right? So you notice mental and emotional unstuckness. You also, and what I've seen in my practice time and time again is just physical unstuckness. So people, or just physical changes that people notice. And it's really fascinating. So I can go on forever, so I'm cutting myself off. All right, I get so excited about it.
I love having to make a talk for hours.
Yes. So
okay, we'll keep it simple.
Give the abridged version, Damon. Okay, so so what we do is we literally just tap on these different acupressure points. So the first point is going to be on the side of the hand, so the soft fleshy part right here, right near the pinky, and you just literally tap with 3-4 fingers. And you can go right, left side, whatever, it doesn't matter as long as you're stimulating that point. If you want to even tap both hands together like this, some people do that as well. So there's no wrong way to do it. And while we tap on this point, we're going to say the blanket statements, the setup statement, which is, even though I have this issue, whatever that issue is for you, I still deeply and completely accept myself. Now, I like to mix it up, so even though that's kind of the general phrase, we fine tune it according to whatever the person is dealing with. But again, if you're a beginner, whatever works, you can say, I deeply and completely accept myself, and that's perfect. Good. And then we say that 3 times, and then we move on to the other points. So the first point is going to be inside the eyebrow. It's basically where the eyebrow meets the bridge of the nose. And you can tap right side, left side, both sides, doesn't matter. And by the way, just side note, some people start on the top of the head. I like to end at the top of the head. So then we're going to go outside the eye where the bone is. So you don't want to go as far out as the temple. Yes. You just want to be there where the divot is of the bone. Good. And then we're going to go underneath the eye again in that divot of the bone. Perfect. And then underneath the nose, just above that top lip. And as we're going through these points, we're just going to repeat whatever that issue is that we're dealing with, whatever the emotion, the physical sensation, whatever it is. And then we're going to go to the chin, just underneath that bottom lip on the fold there. Good. And then the collarbone, I like to cross over right to left, left to right, but you don't have to. But I like to cross because that's how the brain talks to itself. But you're going to go just underneath the collarbone. It's like a soft, fleshy part about midway between the ball of your collarbone and the shoulder here. And you're just going to tap lightly there. And people, I love this point because people are always like, oh, yeah, that's it. Like you can feel. Awesome. And then we're going to go underneath the arm about midway down the rib cage. And you can do open hand with this. I've seen people do kind of duck fingers. So whatever is most comfortable for you. Again, left, right side, doesn't matter. And then we're going to end with the top of the head. So the crown of the head here. Yep. Good. And then we're going to all collectively take a nice deep breath in. Just continue tapping and release. And we're going to check in. Just check in. And before we even start, we'll do a 0 to 10. We're going to rate whatever it is we're feeling. I'll go into that in a moment. But we'll rate. And then at the end, we'll go back and check and see what shifted during that time period. What came up, what thoughts, feelings, emotions, memories, etc. There's nothing wrong that could ever occur with this process. And that some people say, oh, my number went up. Awesome. That means we touched on something else that needs to be tapped on. So just your brain leading us to the direction where we need to go.
Got it.
All right. Any questions before we go through a sample round, or did I miss anything, Bernadette?
No, that was amazing. It was lovely. And isn't it just soothing, just tapping with not like that's like tapping and talking is the thing, right? But just sometimes I just sit there and I'm just like, yep. My husband's like, what did I do? I'm like, nothing, honey.
You did not.
Nothing, honey. Just speaking a little.
Yes. I'm telling you, look, and I'll just be doing it randomly in public places, and then
I'm shameless with my tapping. I'm in the
but I am. Yeah.
I'm at the gymnasium and I'm tapping.
Yes. Oh, I love it. Okay. All right. So yeah, let's think about, and I know we were talking about people who either may know about tapping or may not use it as frequently. And I think I kind of want to tap on that. So in regards to loss, for instance.
Okay, perfect. Let's do that.
If that's okay.
Yes, perfect. Let's do it.
Okay. So we're going to start by tapping on the side of the hand. And I want you to just think about, those of you who are out there and listening, the 0 to 10, you feel like you are tapping and you have a regular tapping practice. You're at a 10, you're practicing every day, multiple times a day, or maybe it's at a 0 or a 1, that you're not tapping that much. Great. And so now that you have your number anywhere between a 1 and a 10 regarding the frequency that you practice EFT in your healing process, just repeat after me. Even though it's hard to practice.
Even though it's hard to practice.
Or use EFT consistently.
And use EFT consistently.
If at all.
If at all.
In my healing.
In my healing journey.
Yeah, I'm still open to practicing just a little bit more.
Yeah, I'm still open to practicing just a little bit more.
Good. Even though.
It
can be hard to get into a routine.
It can be hard to get into a routine.
Of using EFT.
Of using EFT.
Or any other tool for that matter.
Or any other tools.
In my healing journey.
In my healing journey.
I still deeply and completely accept myself.
I still deeply and completely accept myself.
Honor my journey.
Honor my journey.
And I'm open to using these tools just a little bit more.
And I'm open to using these tools just a little bit more.
Good. Even though. It is hard.
It is hard.
To practice these tools.
To practice these tools.
To use EFT all the time.
To use EFT all the time.
I choose to honor myself and my process.
I choose to honor myself and my process.
And practice a little more grace with myself.
And practice a little more grace with myself.
as I heal more and more
as I heal more and more
each and every day.
each and every day.
Good. Starting with the inside the eyebrow. This challenge using this tool.
This challenge I have using this tool.
Good. Outside the eye. I don't have the time to do it.
I don't have the time to do it.
Underneath the eye. Sometimes it feels like it doesn't work.
Sometimes it feels like it just doesn't work.
Underneath the nose. I just don't have the time to use it.
I just don't have the time to use it.
Chin. I already know what I'm dealing with.
Say again?
I already know what I'm dealing with.
Yeah, I already know what I'm dealing with.
Collarbone. Why do I need this tool to help me?
Why do I need this tool to help me?
Underneath the arm. Why not?
Why not? Yeah.
Good. Top of the head. Maybe it could help just a little bit more.
Maybe it could help me just a little bit more.
Good. Inside the eyebrow. After all, here I still am.
After all, here I still am.
Good. Outside the eye. Still dealing with the same stuff.
Still dealing with the same stuff.
Underneath the eye. So maybe tapping can help.
So maybe tapping can help.
Underneath the nose. Just a little bit of my process.
Just a little bit of my process.
Chin. I know it can help.
I know it can help.
Collarbone, because there's a lot of research out there.
Yeah, there's a lot of research out there.
That says just how powerful it is.
Yeah, that says just how powerful it is.
Underneath the arm. But there's a part of me that resists that sometimes.
I resist it sometimes.
Yeah. Top of the head. And that's okay.
And that's okay.
Inside the eye. I'm human.
I'm human.
And I'm still learning.
And I'm still learning.
And I'm still growing.
And I'm still growing.
And healing.
And healing.
And I'm open to choosing these tools.
And I'm open to choosing these tools.
I'm open to collarbone. I'm open to choosing this tool of EFT.
Yeah, I'm open to choosing this tool of EFT.
And using it just a little bit more.
And using it just a little bit more.
Underneath the arm in my healing process.
In my healing process.
Top of the head as a gift to myself.
As a gift to myself.
Good. Take a nice deep breath in. And let go. Tune in and see what you notice, what came up. Any thoughts and sensations.
What's really interesting as we go through that process is I'm thinking about people who have said to me, yeah, I know about the tapping. You stop sending me the links. Stop sending me the links all the time to all the stuff with all the people doing all the tapping. And I'm like, talk to me. And it's always comes back to, look, I can't even do anything right. I can't heal right. I can't heal fast enough. I can't tap. I don't know what to say. Like it works for other people, it doesn't work for me. Works for other people, doesn't work for me. Right?
Uh-huh.
And so it's like this constant, like I just can't do anything right. And so I'm not going to, this isn't going to.
It's a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah. And I always say to people, my experience with it is a little similar to what you said before, is you can't do it wrong. Like you can't,
right.
You're tapping, you're doing it. It's like you can't
You're doing it. You're doing it. Exactly.
The nervous system is going to get some soothing. It's working for you. So I think tapping, there's a lot of just let go of any idea that it has to be a certain way, right? And just
that's right.
Play with it and
exactly. Yeah, have fun with it. And and even I know for me, I wake up every morning and just tap through the points. Like I don't even say anything because it's too early. I can't think about like what I want to say, but I still at least tap through the points just to get my nervous system online, just to start the day with some clarity, with some peace, with some calm. And so again, yeah, there's no wrong way to do it. And that perfectionist way of looking at things is sometimes prevents people from actually being active in the game.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I appreciate that. And I think it's a really important message to reintroduce that, just getting in and doing it. It doesn't have to look a certain way. You don't have to say certain words. You can kind of just follow the rough outline. And I think it was actually just like a super awesome kind of example round of tapping to do, is resisting doing the tapping, because it's a super common thing. So I appreciate you suggesting that. So for people that want to specifically connect in with some of your teachings and materials, I know you're busy doing a lot of amazing work where you are in Germany at the moment, but you have books, right? And you've got some online resources on your website that people can go and visit. Can you just tell us a little bit about those things?
Sure. So the book that I have, well, I have two. The first one is entitled From Morning to Night, and that's MOURNING to KNIGHT. And the subtitle is Overcoming Loss. And that's really just kind of my personal memoir about the losses that I've experienced, including the loss of my sister, how I got into this work. And the I was going to say the listener, but the reader can use as resources in their own healing process.
Beautiful.
And then the second book is entitled What's Your Action Plan? 6 Powerful Ways to Get Unstuck in Your Life Now. And ACTION is an acronym for affirmations, creativity, talking, introspection, openness, and nowness.
Oh, I love
and I delve into each of those in the book. I really was inspired by Hal Elrod and the Miracle Morning as I came up with the idea for that book. But so it's really just helping people use tangible tools to work through whatever it is they're going through.
I love that. Really practical, something they can take and really apply and start using. That's awesome.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because I didn't want to just have a book about me, like I think it's important for people to have that tangible tool. So
love it.
And then on my website, I do have some links to online courses. And that's www.damonsilaspsychology.com.
Right, I'll make sure that is below this video. Wherever anyone is watching this online, there'll be a link with that video so they can easily find your website. That's amazing. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you.
It's been fun connecting with you. I love your energy.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. And it's been it's been great connecting with you and your listeners. And I really hope that I appreciate you and the work that you do, and just spreading the love and the energy to so many people who need it. So thank you.
Yeah. Healing in community, right?
Yes, that's it.
Thank you so much for your time. Have a beautiful evening.
You too. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.